Together with American songwriter, we had the chance to talk to Brother Sundance.
Adam was able to talk to Brother Sundance on the phone. Check out his latest single, Nightmares. And he has a new EP coming out later this year called I Hurt You, I Made This.
Make sure to check out our YouTube page and Facebook page at Bringing It Backwards and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Bringing Back Pod.
And we'd appreciate your support if you follow and subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen to these podcasts.
We're Bringing It Backwards with Brother Sundance.
Hey, Adam. I'm here.
Hey, what's going on? Brother Sundance, how are you, man?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I am great. Thanks for taking time to chat with me today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, of course. First, tell me about where you grew up.
So I grew up in South Florida, kind of like Fort Lauderdale, a little bit north of Miami. I really enjoyed it there, and I moved to Nashville about 3 years ago now. So I'm enjoying Nashville, and I enjoyed South Florida a lot as well.
Right on. How'd you get into music originally?
So my dad played the drums for most of his life. When I was a kid, he always had drum sets in the house. And so I was like 2 years old and I was trying really hard to play like his big kits.
Wow.
So I've been playing the drums since, I've been playing the drums since I was like 2. So it was drums for a long, long time. And then in high school, actually, I had a girlfriend who was really into One Direction. And this was when One Direction was like doing like their acoustic pop stuff. So I was like, man, if I could learn to play the guitar, I think she would like be really impressed by that. I was like, I'll learn to play guitar, I'll sing some songs, it'll be really cool. And so I did it. He wasn't impressed at all, but that was the beginning of me sort of stepping away from the drums, like learning guitar and everything else. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, she wasn't impressed by your guitar by learning guitar?
She was not impressed at all. No.
Oh.
Also, I think I was pretty horrible. So probably understandable.
You said your dad was a drummer. Did he play in bands and stuff when you were growing up?
So by the time I was born, he wasn't playing in bands as much. But all through sort of like his youth, he grew up in bands and was like playing in the local scene. He grew up in South Florida as well. So he was in the South Florida scene well before I was.
Sure. Yeah. So you start learning guitar in high school, and then what went from there? Did you start jamming with people? Were you writing songs? What was the next step for you?
Yeah, so I started learning guitar freshman year of high school, and then pretty soon after that, I started bands, and they were punk bands. So all through high school, I was in a series of punk bands in South Florida and pretty deeply ingrained in the scene down there. And it was awesome. Like it was me and all my friends jumping in vans, driving everywhere, playing like sometimes 4 shows a weekend, just kind of like really having fun.
Wow.
And they're like, those memories remain some of my fondest and my favorite in music, especially.
Wow. So these punk bands you played in, you guys were like, what, doing like little tours and stuff? I mean, 4 shows in a weekend, that's a lot.
Yeah, we were doing, so we were just hustling as much as we could. Most of it was like in town. The cool thing about South Florida is that there's like 3 or 4 cities like all bunched up together. There's like Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Boca, and then West Palm, and it's like this long stretch of kind of city. So we would just kind of drive up and down the coast playing shows, and it was a dream. It was a lot of fun.
Wow, how'd you end up how'd you book those shows and stuff?
It was just kind of like we sent a lot of emails, and one show led to the next show, and it kind of just snowballed. And we just kind of gave it all. It was really, really fun.
That's cool. Was that? And you said that was in high school when you were doing that?
Yeah.
Nice. Well, like, what was the first show you ever played in front of people? Do you remember your first performance?
I was in a few bands as a drummer early in like probably before high school even. So I did a few shows like as a drummer when I was really young. But then my first show I remember very vividly. my first show as an actual singer and performer, where I was leading a band, was this battle of the bands at this dive bar in South Florida. Mm-hmm. And the judges for that battle of the bands, we did not win. We were pretty bad. But the judges for that battle of the bands they were the engineers from a studio down there in Florida called Power Station Studios. Mm-hmm. And after the show, they came up to me and they were like, "We know you didn't win, but we really dug you. We should stay in touch." And I thought it was really cool of them. So I ended up recording one of my punk bands at their studio and just fell in love with everybody there, to the point where for I Hurt You, I Made This, my upcoming record, I flew back down to South Florida and cut all the vocals with them. So those guys, that first show kind of like led to so much and a great relationship. And we're still working together to this day.
Wow, that's incredible. So
pretty crazy, right?
Yeah. So the new song, Nightmares, the vocals were cut in South Florida with the people that you met at that show?
Yeah.
Wow. That's really cool.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah, that's wild. So tell me about...
when I signed... Oh, no. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, when I signed, my A&R asked me sort of where I wanted to work and how I wanted to work. And I was, one of the first things I said was like, "Oh, there's these guys in South Florida who I really like. I'd love to go back down there if I can." And so I'm very grateful that the label let me do it. And I think it's really a fun story, and it means a lot to continue to work with those guys.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
So your first recordings with those guys were with your punk band. When did you decide to start Brother Sundance?
So it was near the tail end of, I guess, what would have been high school. So I was actually homeschooled through all of high school. So my high school years were all a little blurry. I'm not exactly sure where my junior, senior, and all that. I'm not sure where those years were.
Sure. Yeah. Well, my son's homeschooled right now, so I get it. Or we took him out of school like before the pandemic. So.
Yeah, it gets a little blurry. You're kind of like, I don't know what year that actually was, but near the tail end of what would have been high school, I guess. I decided that I wanted to try to do something. First, so my music taste was changing, and also too, like I was realizing that I wanted to kind of be nicer to listeners, I guess. Like in punk bands, like in my punk bands, we were always like trying to make the most challenging thing to listen to. Like it'd be a feat if you could like sit through these records, just because we were always trying to like push the envelope and sound as crazy as we could. And I was like, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to make records that people can like kind of enjoy and relate to and like understand. And my music taste was changing at the same time, so it was all like really perfect timing. So I was just feeling this shift, and I just kind of went with it, and it's going okay so far.
Yeah, I'd say. That's awesome. So tell me, well, when did you move to Nashville?
About 3 years ago. It was right at the beginning of Brother Sundance. I had so actually I'll tell you a quick story, which was so the Honey EP, which was the first Brother Sundance record, started as a record for my punk band. I decided that I wanted like the most hi-fi punk record possible. So I emailed every studio in South Florida and found this studio called the Hit Factory down there, which is like, I didn't know what it was at the time, but it's like one of the most famous studios on the planet. And like everybody under the sun has recorded there. They have rooms full of platinum and gold records. It's crazy. Wow. And I was just this kid in a punk band, and I played them my record, the staff at the studio, and they really dug what I was doing in my punk band. So they cut me a great deal and let me record my punk songs there. But I finished the record with them, and I was like, okay, I've recorded at this big studio. When I play this for like my friends, they're gonna freak out and they're gonna be like, "This is gonna be a huge record." They're gonna be so excited. And then I played it for all my friends, and like everybody was kind of like, "Eh." They like didn't really dig it. They didn't think it was anything special. And it was really a scary moment for me, because at that point I had like saved up all my money and spent it on this record, and it really wasn't working. So the first Brother Sundance record actually came from a failed punk record. because I spent all my money, so I was like, I don't know what to do. So then I started having to like learn to program drums, and I basically like reset and made the whole record in my bedroom from that point on, which was pretty crazy and cool. So that was kind of like where Brother Sundance came from in the beginning, and yeah, I don't remember exactly what led to me telling you this story, but
Oh no, I was asking like how you got to when you went to Nashville. But that's
yeah.
crazy. So
Yeah, so
you stripped down the punk rock songs and just recut everything in your house, you said? Like your
yeah,
bedroom?
yeah. That first record was made like on these really inexpensive speakers I had gotten at the local music store, and like this $100 microphone in my bedroom. Just basically like me and my friends. It was pretty cool.
That's the Honey EP? Or
Yeah,
no? Wow. That's crazy.
yeah,
So the EP you hear now, the one that you first put out, is all tracked from your house or your bedroom.
yep, yep.
Wow.
And to connect that back to the Nashville question, right after I finished that record in my bedroom, my parents came to me and they said, "We're going to move to Nashville because we kind of want to change the scenery. Do you want to come?" And at first I was hesitant, but it happened to coincide with like the first song from that EP coming out, and things were looking better than they'd ever looked for me before in music. So I was like, I took advantage of that moment, and that's kind of how I ended up in Nashville. So I remember now how it was all supposed to connect back.
Well, tell me about putting that EP out. You said things started happening when you put out Honey. Like, is that what attracted Warner to contact you? Like, how did that relationship start?
Yeah, so uh, we put out the first song from Honey with not too many expectations. At that point, like I think the biggest song I'd ever put out with any of my bands was like maybe it gotten like 1,000 streams. Like that was like a big deal. If you had 1,000 streams, that was a big deal in South Florida.
Yeah.
Not too many expectations, but we put it out and we were very fortunate. The team at Apple Music reached out and told us how much they liked the record and that they wanted to support it. And they started playlisting the first song from the EP. And it kind of just all snowballed from there. That first, I'll never forget. I didn't even really know what a playlist was at that point, but I'll never forget getting the emails that we were like on a bunch of playlists and driving around with my friends. We were like lower in the playlist, but we listened to the entire playlist waiting for my song to come on just because we thought it was so cool. So that was a surreal moment and kind of led to everything. So fast forward a year, we kind of promoted that Honey EP for a year, and then about a year after the release, that's when I signed with Warner.
Wow. Well, tell me about getting contacted by Apple Music. How did that happen? They just happened to hear the song, like.
I think my manager at the time had a loose connection to them at that point, and had sent like an email or two, just like, "Hey, we put this out. Like, you should check it out." And then they reached out and really dug it. And I'm a ginormous Apple fan, like Apple products fan, I guess.
Sure.
So when Apple was supporting me, it was like the craziest, most surreal thing. I wrote them a long letter thanking them and telling them how much them as a company have meant to me throughout my life. My dad was like a giant Apple fanboy as well. So I grew up on like Apple computers and stuff. And and they ended up inviting me out to Apple in LA, and we got to play them the record and hang out and see the offices and everything, which was like a giant dream for me. And my dad came with me actually just because he was really excited too. Like we're big Apple fans in this house, so.
That's cool. That's really cool that they took you out there and everything. I wonder how many artists they actually will do that for. Probably not too many. That's awesome.
It was one of the coolest moments in my life. Like I was grateful, and just to be out there in those offices and like just to learn about what they do there. It was wild, surreal, and still grateful for it to this day.
Yeah. Wow, that's cool. And when you put out Honey, like tell me about after that song started blowing up, was that kind of what attracted then Warner Records to contact you?
So we one of the things that ended up happening with the single was Blind at that point off Honey, was the song, it went to alternative radio, and it started climbing the alternative radio chart a little bit. I think we were like top 30 maybe. I'm not exactly sure at this point. But it was when the song was on the chart that we started to get like some label interest, and Warner came to the table, which was a dream come true. So, funny little Warner story, actually. When I was like 14 or 15, I went to a music conference, like a music industry, like learn about the music industry type thing. And there was a portion of the conference where you went and you sat down with like an A&R rep from a record label. And it happened to be this guy from Sire Records. And we sat down and I played him a song I was working on, and he dug it, and we kind of emailed back and forth. And for like a week, I was convinced I was going to get signed to Sire or Warner, because it's all, and I was like telling everyone, I was like, we're going to get signed to Warner Brothers, like it's the whole thing. I was so excited. So to be like 14 or 15 and have that moment, and then, fast forward however many years, and to then get actually signed to the label, that was a dream come true, to say the least.
Yeah. Wow. And when you signed to Warner, what was the next thing? Did they put you on a tour? Like, tell me about what happened after you got the deal.
So when we signed, and the first thing was we kind of finished out the Honey cycle. So we did maybe another couple months of supporting that EP. And then we started working on this next record, which became I Hurt You, I Made This. And it got off to an interesting start. So we did like a whole ton of sessions here in Nashville and a whole ton of sessions in LA. And we were trying to sort of find our groove as a new team. I think when you sign, like, your A&R has to sort of learn how you work, and there's a lot that goes into just sort of understanding each other. And we were definitely working through that, and it wasn't totally working. Like, we weren't getting great stuff out of sessions. I had never really like been in sessions before. I'd always worked alone, so it was challenging. And at the end of this like 2 or 3 month long writing process with all these people, we didn't have too much, and I called my team and I said, I know this is crazy, but is there any chance you would be down to like let me make this record alone in my house, like I've always made records, kind of like how I made Honey? And I think out of desperation, they were like, yeah, sure, let's try it. And it worked. So I made all of I Hurt You, I Made This in my basement here in Nashville. And that was it took about a year to make the record. I wrote like 150 songs for it. And it was a pretty intense, long process. But I spent the first year of my being signed just writing and trying to sort of create this next project.
Wow. So even the song Nightmares that you've just put out, that was produced in your house?
Yep.
Oh my gosh. They probably love the fact that you're saving them a ton of money on recording.
Well, yeah, they definitely save money on producers and studio time and all sorts of stuff. And so one of the things we got to do because of that was we don't like pay really producer fees, because I produce all my own records for the most part. And so one of the things we did get to do was we went out and we hired Neil Avron to mix the record. And he was like he is my all-time favorite mixing engineer. And he's probably a little pricier than we would have gone had we been spending money other places. So it was very cool that it all kind of worked out where we got to have Neil on the team. And he ended up mixing the whole I Hurt You, I Made This record, which another giant dream come true, because he's incredible and the record sounds better than I could ever imagine.
Why'd you like him so much as a producer or as a mixer?
So he did my favorite record of all time. One of my favorite records of all time is Blurry Face by 21 Pilot.
Okay.
And he mixed that record. And as far as like modern records are concerned, like, to me, that's one of the best sounding modern records I've ever heard.
Yeah. It's one of the biggest records of all time. I think every song on that album went like platinum. It's so crazy.
Yeah, no. amazing record, and the quality of like sound and the way everything's layered is just like next level. So it was always like he worked on that record. He also worked on Young and the Giants record that like I'm obsessed with as well.
Mm-hmm.
The Home of the Strange record.
Oh yeah.
And both of those records sound so incredibly solid to me that he was like, okay, if I ever get a chance, like Neil Avron's my guy.
Mm-hmm.
So to have gotten the opportunity was so cool, and he's such a nice guy, and he does such good work. It was awesome.
That's awesome. That's really cool that you're able to get him. So
Yeah.
so the new EP, I Hurt You, I Made This. It's coming out later this year. Tell me about the song Nightmares, the first single from the record.
Yeah. So Nightmares is a song I'm really, really proud of. It came from my girlfriend and my family and I took a trip to New York City late 2019, and she has some anxiety and stuff, and she had told me weeks prior, like in the weeks leading up to our trip, that she was having some trouble sleeping, and that she was having bad dreams. And I did my best. We're in a long distance relationship. She lives in Philadelphia. I live in Nashville. So she had told me that, but I'd never kind of like been around her through that. So we were in New York. It was a lovely trip, but one night she had a sort of a bad anxiety night, and she had these really bad nightmares, and she couldn't sleep, and I felt so bad, and I'd never been with her when that happened, so it was kind of a heavy thing for me. So that was the root of Nightmares. Was she was so stressed about all this stuff, and I was too. Like at that point, the record had been taking a long time. I was really worried that I wasn't going to get it done, that it wasn't going to be good enough. There was a lot of pressure on me, and I was kind of miserable just in general. And so the whole root of the song is like, we don't need any of this. Like, why don't we just like drop everything and just like disappear? Because we're both stressed and neither of us is happy. Like, this is really heavy. So why don't we just go like the chorus says, find a happy place to dream about. So that's where the song came from. And I'm really happy it was the first single because it's one of my favorites from the record.
What made you decide on that as the first single?
It was, I think the decision started with how much I liked the song. Like when I finished the record, that was always my favorite and the one I talked about the most. So with that as well as it felt like a good song to put out. During this, we're all in quarantine right now. It felt like a good song for that moment somehow. Like it, I don't know. There's something kind of quirky about it, especially at the end. It has that like little scream and that spoken word part. I think I just always thought of it as like a very digital song, I guess. That, it's the kind of thing that maybe could work on social media, maybe could kind of like take on a life of its own. So I think the thinking was like, why don't we give this a shot in this crazy time and see what happens and let it do its thing. And so that's kind of where it all came from.
Nice. How are you doing during this whole, quarantine pandemic? Have you been able to like write, or how are you coping with this?
I think there are good days and bad days, probably just like everybody else. I realized recently that most of the new songs, the songs on the new record, I made this, started with me traveling. Like I realized that like 5 out of the 6 songs on the record I wrote somewhere that wasn't Nashville.
Oh, interesting.
So I've been trying to write for what will be the record that follows this next record. And I'm sort of battling with kind of being stuck at home. I think living life is like one of the most crucial pieces to writing a record. And I think that's why so many of the songs on the new record came from travel. It was like, okay, I'm getting out of my element and like experiencing these things. So to not be able to do that, I think has been hard for me as like a creator, because I really want to kind of like get out and explore and experience different things to kind of inspire me. So I'm struggling there a little bit, but as far as like my day to day and my headspace, like I feel really good. I joke with people that I was already kind of self-quarantining because when you build a studio in your basement and you're working on a record, you kind of don't leave your house.
Yeah.
So my day-to-day didn't change very much, except for it's harder for me to kind of go out and get inspired and explore.
Sure. Have you been able to write at all? Have you been writing at all?
I'm trying. I'm doing my best. I think I called my manager the other day and I said, I think this is the closest I've ever been to writer's block. But I'm stuck a little bit. And I think that just has to be being inside. And like I said, songs have to come from real life for me. And so it's hard. I don't want to just be like making things up. I want to be writing from my own experiences. So it's hard to not be able to go out and kind of get new experiences, I guess.
Sure. Yeah, that makes total sense. Not being able to grasp that inspiration, just looking at your four walls in your house all day.
Like I was trying to write earlier this morning, and I was like, why am I having so much trouble with this? And I realized I was like, it's because there's like not like I actually have nothing going on. There's nothing to write about. It's like I either write the same song I've already written 1,000 times about being bored or something, or I make something up. It's an interesting challenge.
Yeah. Have you been doing anything like during the quarantine as far as like going live on Instagram or doing any of those type things?
Yeah, so now that Nightmares is out, we are building up a little kind of like streaming show so that we can play and live stream and do stuff like that, which I'm really excited about. And I've been going live in the studio a little bit and kind of just like answering questions and hanging out and maybe working on a little music. So that's been a fun piece of what's otherwise a pretty tough situation. It's been nice to connect with people like that. It's been fun.
That's cool. Yeah. Or having people been digging it? Like, I'm sure they think it's so rad to be able to, chat with, their favorite artists or whatever via the internet because everyone's kind of stuck inside right now.
Yeah, I think people are digging it, and I'm digging it as a fan. Like, I've been joining other people's live streams and hanging out, so it's cool that it feels like everybody's available, and it's nice to be able to engage with not only my fans but also be a fan of other people.
Yeah, totally. Well, man, thank you so much for your time. I can't wait to hear the whole record. I love Nightmares. Just the style of it is so rad. Like it's kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like all over the place, but it all makes sense, if that makes sense.
I'm glad it all makes sense because I'm like, man, it is kind of all over the place, but I'm really glad you like it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man, I think it's an awesome song. I can't wait to hear the rest of the record. I have one more question for you. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Yeah, absolutely. My advice is that nothing matters but the song. Like if you write a truly hit song, what we're all looking for is to put out a song and have it take on a life of its own. And we're like, people are just naturally sharing it. It's growing and it's kind of having that viral thing. And you see it like all the time where some kid in his bedroom just puts something out in SoundCloud and it turns into this huge thing and their whole career starts in that moment. And I think that the most important thing is the song. And so my advice is to write 10,000 songs and to just not stop and keep getting better and better and better and better. Because really, that if you have a great song, that's all you need. So that's my advice.